Hey, movie fans, welcome back for another Anatomy of Movie. Here today, the Anatomy crew goes to the movies. Wait, what? No, we're talking about the movies. No, that's what we do. We talk about the movies. That's right. Teen Titans go to the movies, and we talk about them. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Anatomy of a Movie.
That's right. Go Teen Titans go. You go to the movies and we'll watch the movies because we're Marisa Serafini.
Hello, everyone.
We're Demetri Panos.
Hey, movie fans.
And I'm Phil Svitek. Marisa, you sang last time.
No
Sing
boy.
this time
No,
again.
I
no.
would if I knew all the words.
Teen Titans go. I mean, come on.
Titans
Teen
go.
Titans go. Teen Titans go.
I'll let them just do it this time.
There we go. All right, if you're just joining us for the very first time, we have a lot of fun. So much fun that we talk about movies every single week, but we just don't do it from a review standpoint. We don't just say we liked it or we didn't like it. We talk about the storylines, what worked, what didn't work. We go into the hows and the whys and all that fun stuff. And generally, once a week, we have a long version that we do. This week, it was Mission Impossible Fallout. And then we do a sort of a quicker version where we truncate everything. And Teen Titans Go is that movie this week. We will talk box office numbers and production aspects and all that fun stuff so you get to know how this movie was made. Before any of that, though, be warned that this is going to be spoiler-filled, so if you haven't seen the movie, although with a movie like this, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, but it's just going to be fun either way.
Right.
So, it's a movie that you shouldn't take too seriously, so if it gets spoiled for you by listening, you can still go see it. It's a lot of fun. Thirdly, you can follow along. We have a PDF that has our notes in the description. You can check it out and follow along. But without further ado, let us start with overall impressions for this movie. Marisa, kick us off.
Well, admittedly, I did not watch any of the Teen Titans show, the original, and so I really don't know the whole franchise, the lore of Teen Titans. So I went into this basically like clean slate, and I enjoyed it. It was funny. I can definitely see where the kids would enjoy it. I would see where the adults would enjoy it. And as a film major, I loved the aspect of a film within a film, and I thought that was fun. You see kids just being teenagers, ridiculous in that way. So like overall it's fun. And I didn't expect musicals. I literally did not expect singing and musical numbers in this film. So I was like, all right, this is cool. So I actually had fun.
Awesome. And you, Demetri?
It's like the 21 Jump Street of animated superheroes movies. And this is like one of the only animated superhero movies that we've seen. I found it enjoyable. I mean, I wasn't into the Teen Titans show. There were a lot of other superheroes on TV. The Batman series animated show I was a really big fan of. I have some DC animated Blu-rays at home, but I don't know. For me, it just wasn't my cup of tea. I tried watching it because there were superheroes. I just wasn't into the tack that they took. And I found it to be geared towards a much younger audience, which is fine. I have no problem against that, or nothing against that. Going into the movie, I did find, again, it was aimed at a younger audience, but there was the meta aspect of it that I found to be fun. The music stuff was fun to watch. They had to have a fart joke in it. And
Just one?
Yeah.
Several.
And again, it ended on something that I thought was, not only was it hysterical, but it actually had relevance as I was walking out of the theater. I heard a conversation about what was told to ask your parents. And I was like, well, and the movie ended up going there in other... through other parts, like when they did their time travel thing, like how to get rid of the superheroes so
Back
we
to
can
the
be
future.
Back to the future, and the whole Bruce Wayne and his family. Like I was like, wow, they went there. It's like because they had to go back and fix everything. It's like, no, go down this alley. Like, wow.
Yeah.
I loved that there was also a moment where they were like the beginning of the Teen Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Right.
Brilliant.
That was really funny too.
Like literally, if you blinked, you would have missed it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll summarize mine this way. I too never really seen Teen Titans, and so I kind of put it on the schedule and threw it out there. Both of you guys wanted to see it, and I was like, okay, great, I'll go see the movie too. Yes, it has sort of cute, crude humor. We've talked about this with other movies, like we've done Captain Underpants, and there's just a universal level of what works for any audience. Fart jokes is very high on that list, if not number one. And, that aside, I had a fun time. It seems like most of us had a great time with the meta aspect, not only the movie making, but this whole idea of superhero movies. And so I want to kick things off kind of there, because I thought it was rather the more brilliant aspect of it, that we're so intertwined with superhero movies that if you are a villain, presumably that that you would just make movies about superheroes all day, and they would be too tied up to do this, including Stan Lee, who makes an appearance in a DC movie.
Twice, and he's like, I don't care if
cameos.
it's a DC movie. I don't care if it's a DC movie.
And it really was him.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was.
I love
That was
cameos.
really funny. Again, going meta.
Oh, like this movie is like the definition of meta.
Yeah, I mean, but again, that's why I likened it to 21 Jump Street, the movies, because those movies are so meta. They almost became a movie within a movie that is a movie within a movie. So, in this one was sort of like that, and I liked the little Easter eggs. Like you bring up the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle thing. That was very funny, by the way. It's not a DC movie.
No kid laughed at that because I don't think they understood it. It went by so quick.
It happened very quickly, but there was something else that happened extremely quickly in the short film that played prior, which was about Batgirl
Batsy.
trying to get to, waiting for Commissioner Gordon to go to sleep, which was sort of funny. But there's a scene when she gets out of the house and she's running in the street, and for literally it was about 2 seconds, there was the exact scene. If anybody's ever watched the 60s Batman television series, the theme song, which is an animated type theme song, it was pulled right. There was a part of that theme song pulled right out of there and put right into that movie. I was like, that is very funny that two people in this theater might get. Definitely one. It was that meta. It was almost like Mystery Science Theater 3000 jokes. You're either going to get them, but there are so many of them. A couple are going to go by your head, and I'm sure there was a ton that went by my head watching this, because I didn't watch a lot of Teen Titans, but it was fun. It was fun. It was a fast 87 minutes.
One of the things I laughed at is it's certainly the continuity of the DCEU isn't 100% because Cyborg was in the Justice League, and so of course he's already been in a movie.
Yeah.
So I laughed at that aspect. Not that it was made to be a plot point, but
And they're still making fun of Green Lantern.
Yeah.
We don't talk about that. Still. Whether it's a live action.
Still funny.
Yeah.
always going to be
Or in
funny.
Deadpool. It was made fun of in Deadpool. Over here, and it's made fun in an animated movie.
Well, speaking of Deadpool, it's a that's our main villain. His original name in the comics is Deathstroke, but they didn't feel that was appropriate for a PG movie. So Slade works.
Yeah, and I think his name is Slade too.
It was fun to say so many times. Like that was a running joke that eventually it was funny for the kids, but then when they brought it back and the adult heroes were doing it, then it just upped the comedy of it.
Kids in my theater were doing it. They were going Slade. I was hearing that. I was like, that's funny. And you know that the movie's reaching somebody when that happens in a movie theater that's filled with kids.
Absolutely. And that's what right off the bat, it set the tone for what this movie was going to be. And to your point, Marisa, I didn't know that it was going to be so musically inclined. And the way they kind of set off Chekhov's gun, which is a term for a device where you introduce something very early on only to have it come back later.
Right.
The whole idea of the Teen Titan theme song as being the thing that's supposed to save everything, mind blown when that comes back in the most effective way.
Yep.
I thought it was cool because it also meant something more the second time around. The
Yeah.
first one was just an introduction to the audience of who's who. It was actually good for me because I was like, I don't know who you guys are. I haven't watched the show. So the first time it was an introduction, and the second time actually meant something like these are, like there's a purpose for each of them.
Right.
And I liked it meant more the second time.
What about you, Demetri? What is opening remarks as far as the way the movie played out?
The movie look, it had its laughs. My biggest, I guess and again, it's what am I criticizing here? Batman doesn't stick up for Robin. Like, it's almost as if Batman treated him like a complete stranger when everybody else in the room knew that Robin is always with Batman, and they're going to this movie, and it was like, well, wait, Batman doesn't know. Like, why is Batman not going to help him out?
Well, remember they had the flashback later on, so it does offer an explanation of like sidekicks really are just so subpar to superheroes that, you know, when Batman has the Lion King moment of like, I have a sidekick.
Yeah,
it's like, no, ew, a sidekick, and yeah, he has to just get rid of him because it's tainted his image.
That was a very funny scene.
I laughed at that.
So
I was like, this is brilliant meta.
Oh my god!
Of Disney. Like, you're not only are you making fun of the Marvel universe with Stan Lee, now you're also making fun of Disney universe.
So brilliantly animated too. I mean, it was that scene was hysterical. Yeah, he's just a sidekick, and he throws him over.
But like shot by shot of like
Oh,
characters eating grass
brilliant,
like an
yes.
animal. I'm like, what are we watching? Hilarious.
It was hilarious.
Well, I do appreciate the styles of animation in particular and the way it went about it. Like his ultimate goal, Robin's, of making this movie, and then when the Teen Titans made the movie, and we see that crappy animation, but it just has so much heart. It uses all these different tricks to its most effective manner.
Right.
And despite all the humor, there's a lot of heart there, and I appreciate it for that aspect of it. I wasn't expecting that as much,
Yeah.
to be honest. So, but I rather appreciate it for what it did.
Yeah, all on a $10 million or so budget. You know, which is in this day and age, even a Pixar movie is topping off
60, 70.
100. I mean, like, they're expensive, these animated movies now. They used to be cheaper, but you know, this movie did it on a $10 million budget. It looked pretty decent. Look, it looked good enough to fill up on the big screen, but much like, I think, to an extent, Captain Thunderpants, it's the story. Underpants.
I thought you were making fun of it for a moment.
Underpants. There were fart jokes in that movie too. We talked about it here. It's about the story. It really is, and I can only go by the audience. And it was a full house when I saw it. Wednesday, late after, early evening, and they were just loving it. The kids were loving it, and you knew that it reached out to them in one way, shape, or form. So it does this really good job. It was funny, and it had all the humor, but you said it too. Adults can appreciate it, even if they don't know who the Teen Titans are.
Right. And what I liked about this film is that it was in 2D animation. I can't remember the last time I saw an animated film in 2D. Like the full movie in 2D. And probably going back from like Disney's Princess and the Frog, and that was 2009. Because every animated film now it's all Pixar, it's all animation, it's all 3D. Great. Like, you can see where technology and just the film industry has upgraded in animation style, but it's also cool to have a solid, fun movie that's 2D. We need to have more of those movies. Bring them back. I miss them. I really do. And like, I appreciated that this whole film was 2D. Because not once did like it deter from the animation aspect. It was just like it's still just another good film.
Right.
And they used it to their advantage, right? It was very deliberate in the way that they did it, and I appreciated it. And one of the interesting aspects for me is that it's a standalone piece, and yet somehow, again, I can't speak directly to it because I don't watch the TV show, but it's tied into a certain plot, not a plot point, but a timeline within the actual TV series, which came out quite recently, actually. One of the other things I'm fascinated by is they said they could, if this movie does well, they will have a season 6, which is kind of interesting that this is what it's hinging on. So the fact that it does only have a $10 million budget, granted we don't, we could guess how much of its promotional budget that it is, but I feel like it can recoup quite easily.
I mean, if we're going to talk about numbers now, I mean, it is considered a real disappointment in the box office. I don't exactly know where or why that happened, to be honest with you. I thought it was going to do a little bit more. There was promotion for it. I saw trailers for it. I don't understand what happened.
It was also up against Mission Impossible too, so.
Yeah, but we're talking about bringing in like a different audience, and at that point, Incredibles 2 has been out forever. Hotel Transylvania is going in its third week.
At that point, it was only in second. So I think people underestimate Hotel Transylvania. I feel
they
like
have. Yeah, I think they have, very much so. But even with that, it just seemed, I don't know, from a box office perspective, I thought it was going to do a little bit more. It came in fifth
overall, yeah.
Right? So I'm trying to bring up the box office numbers now.
Opening weekend about 10.5 million.
Yeah. We'll see how it holds up, in the coming weeks. I guess to your point, being that it's only 10 million, and it's at 10 million, that, if it can gross in the remainder of its run, get up to at least 20, which I'm not sure is going to be possible. What really stinks is that you're going to hinge the success of a movie as to whether you do more of a television show, because there is no correlation between ratings on a television show and how good a movie does. I mean, seriously, there just is no, just because even if a television show, let's flip it around. If you get a television show that does really well in ratings, it doesn't mean that it's going to do really big box office. The people who watch TV and sometimes the people who go to movies can be two different audiences. And if you're hinging a 6th season on a movie success, it's sort of silly to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would agree.
Right, and I think it's also not the first time that a television show made a movie that's in the theaters. I was like, I think probably the last one that I can think of personally off the top of my head would be Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Their season was in correlation with the Avengers films. And so, you had to watch the show and watch Avengers movie in theaters to understand the storyline.
Yeah, and Avengers, not the Avengers, but Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has had a good run thus far on ABC. It's always been on the bubble of being canceled, and they've kept it on.
I forget the actress, but she's been very public of, I forget how she said it, but, hey, we're equally as there, and the fact that no Avengers ever crossed through, come on to our show.
Right.
This is why we so separate.
Right. So, but let's go back to Teen Titans and their gross. Thus far, as of August 2nd, almost $16 million. So their midweeks actually were really good. Like I said, I saw it on a Wednesday at the theater I saw it in, it was pretty crowded. When I watched
it full of
this movie.
kids?
It was.
Okay.
It really was.
Well, then I think that's the thing, because it is geared towards kids, and kids have to have their parents with them to go see the movie. And most of the parents, I guarantee you, want to see Mission Impossible first compared to Teen Titans.
Yeah, maybe, but yeah.
It's a fun little midweek escape getaway of gotta take the kids.
And there aren't, again, outside of Hotel Transylvania, there isn't another animated movie. I just thought there might have been a little bit more cachet because again, even though I never watched this show regularly, I knew that it had fans. I knew that people watched it and enjoyed it. They had fun. That's great. I thought, being that this was a superhero-ish kind of movie, that would have lent something a little bit more. I'm not saying that this was going to break records like a Marvel movie, but I thought there would be a little bit more as far as gross went. Let's face it, too. As far as DC movies go, this is a DC movie. It's one of the better reviewed DC movies down the pike, and I'm not saying that as a joke. That's truthful.
90% on Rotten Tomatoes, B+ cinema score. I would say it's a fun movie to see. It clocks in at 90 minutes.
Very short. Sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a short. I didn't expect the short
in front of it.
I didn't expect that. I really thought it was the movie because it had that same animation style. And
it had the weird titles, and you're like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm in. Okay, great. What are we watching? I also thought it was really fun to see Daffy Duck. It was fun to see a Warner Brother animated, kids animated movie.
The whole walk down Warner Brothers and that's where the Animaniacs live and all those aspects. It's just
that was funny.
The fact that they were able to pull that in was just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it's a great little kind of, especially, I know it's insider baseball type of stuff, but nonetheless, when you're us, it's just fun to see.
Yeah. And Phil and I were personally just at WB Studios this week. So it makes sense to the people who are in the film industry, again, with the meta.
Yeah.
Any scene in particular that just stood out to you for whether the action or just the comedy?
I loved Doomsday. It's again, they're making fun of themselves. It is DC. Doomsday. Oh yeah, we probably should have thought of a better acronym for that. I thought it was funny and love Kristen Bell. She's awesome. So to have the exposition so funny and comedic, I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah.
What about you, Demetri?
For me, it was, the Balloon Man fight scene. And the, you farted. No, I didn't. And, you really didn't. But they're like, oh,
Air
yes,
coming
you
out
did.
of my butt.
Yes, you did. Yeah, that's a fart. I thought that scene, I thought it was really funny. It was a good way to start because going into the movie, not knowing what to expect, not being a big fan of the television show, when you make me laugh and you can do it within the first 5 minutes of the movie, I'm usually like, okay, I'm in so far. Yeah. So that worked.
One of my favorite things is more of a recurring gag where they set up all the Batman spin-off movies. Alfred, the utility belt in the car.
Oh my god, that was hysterical.
But then the car comes back later as the running joke of I forget how they exactly did it at this point, but the fact that they pulled it off, and I was just like, that's brilliant.
But the movie about the car before you.
But and what was great about the scene you're talking about, Batman's chasing him in the Batmobile. They blow up the Batmobile. He comes out in a motorcycle. They blow up the motorcycle. He's on roller skates. He's on his skates.
He's on that scooter.
And then it's like Alfred's like, Jesus, you just can't kill Batman. Which is a funny joke. And how it played out. Oh, I also, speaking of meta, it was really cool that Nicolas Cage finally did get to play Superman. And he was the voice of Superman. That was funny.
Yes, because he was supposed to be in Superman Lives.
Yep.
But
there's a great documentary about that, by the way. It's on cable, and it's called The Death of Superman Lives. And you actually do get to see Nick Cage in the costume and such. It's a really great documentary. If you watch that, you'll appreciate his voiceover work in this because it's a dream come true for him, and he finally gets to do it. That was fun.
Jimmy Kimmel is also in another animated movie. He's the voice of Batman in this one. He, of course, in Boss Baby and all that. So Jimmy Kimmel's quietly making a name for himself as a voiceover.
Oh, good for him. I mean,
Might as well.
Might as well. Why not?
And Kristen Bell.
Yes.
She's done a few animated movies at this point.
Yeah,
this little one, Frozen, I think she was in.
Just a little one.
Yeah. She's a little ice cold for me, but
but it's But none of the voice, they all gave
But
it
also,
their
like,
all.
I recognize Kristen Bell because
Right.
it was in this film, like this screening, that they showed the trailer to Disney IMAX. I think it was Disney IMAX Panda. And she literally narrated by Kristen Bell. Oh, that's me. So, like, I already knew her voice was already integrated into my mind. And then to hear her voice 30 minutes later, I was like, yeah, that's Kristen Bell.
Yeah.
So
She has
good
a
for
very,
her.
very recognizable voice,
Yeah.
as does Will Arnett. I'm glad he was
Oh,
in it.
yeah. I mean, geez, he's Batman. He's Slade. Like, that was a funny recurring joke. And let's talk about the end. Let's talk about the very end of the movie, which
The mid credits or the go ask your parents.
go ask your parents, because here's the deal. Leading up to that is the message part of the animated movie, which we always seem to get. It almost reminded me of the G.I. Joe animated series that always had the button at the end about what we just learned from this episode. It was like the PSA announcement. And then, like, no, Robert, we got to do the credits. Oh, okay. Okay, kids, ask your parents where babies come from. Boom. As I'm walking out of the theater, I hear this conversation. Oh, but I already know where babies come from. They come from this bird called a stork. And I'm like going, oh, my God.
You can hear a collective grunt from all the parents.
Oh, talk about meta. I'm like, oh my God, it worked. The kids were actually paying attention. Ask your parents where babies come from. And I'm like going, oh my God, they went there.
They did. I was so shocked. I was like, oh, dear Lord. I looked and I was like, you guys are screwed.
Yeah.
And I could just see parents complaining. Going, what movie is this? What they're talking about? I mean, Brad Bird has gotten angry letters about Incredibles 2, where people were talking about this isn't a family movie, there's cussing, blah, blah, blah. I can't even imagine what's being said about this movie. What do you mean having my kids ask me where babies come from? My kid's only 5.
Why?
But the funny is, but I already know where babies come from. They come from this bird called a stork, and he comes and he delivers them. And I'm like cracking up. Like, just because the kid was so, like,
Naive.
but he was so confident. But I don't need to ask you. I already know where they come from.
Well, there you go. That means we don't have to answer it.
It was awesome.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, as promised, that was our quick review. If there's anything that you want to discuss with us specifically about the movie, that's what the comments section's for. You can also interact with us online. We are the Sidekick Superheroes. At Serafini TV is where you can interact with Marisa.
That's right.
Always a sidekick at DMovies1701.
And I'm at Phil Svitek. We are, of course, Popcorn Talk on social media. We're at the Popcorn Talk. And also feel free to follow at Movie Anatomy for the show specifically. Thank you as always. We'll be back next week with Christopher Robin.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.